Good morning. A little bit late, I apologise for. I didn't realise the time when I was eating my lunch and I thought, oh, it's 2 o'clock, I better get cracking. And then rushing around, I got a bit of my sandwich stuck in my throat and I was like coughing, trying to clear it. So I thought, here we go, I'm here. Anyway, let's just talk about the news today before we start. We've got some big news today. FOMC 2 o'clock, and we've got the Fed conference at 2:30, so be very wary of that. And we do have news, a bit of news at 8:30 today, and we've got 9:45, so 15 minutes after the market opens, just to be wary of. We've got oil news as well today as well. So one of my levels is already triggered this morning. This is the area I was waiting for the bounce off of this trend line, and I was going to take that trade just a few seconds ago, and I've not loaded my platform yet, so I'm not going to rush into it. But we've been watching this trend line for a few days, and it was one of the plays. Yesterday we was waiting for it to come back into this area here, which is the point of control as well at the same place. And it's come straight into that trend line and bounced, as you can see in the pre-market. So with that in mind, we can watch. We've got this wedge pattern setting up, ascending wedge, so particularly watching for a break of structure and a retest of this area 49.21 for the move down. Potential target will be this bounce area down here, which would be at 48.9950, well 4900 exactly, and we've got the 200 moving average in that area as well, and we've got a bit of supply down here as well, a bit of demand down here as well. So that's kind of the area I'm watching for a bounce today, 4900. You can see significance of that area as well. We've got the tops of this candle was the ceiling, then it became the floor, and we haven't come back to retest. But it's pretty significant as well, because if we do get down into that area, we've got the 200, and it's a psychological number, 4900 as well. That's for the bounce. As for rejection, break and retest of this ascending triangle and wedge. So watch that area. That's a higher risk area because that's where we are right now. Same as the bounce, which has just occurred. That's a high risk because we're right close to it. This is a high risk at 49.21, but we've got a higher probability in this area, 4900. This is the area I'm watching for. Rejection wise, couldn't break all-time highs yesterday. Tried, and we rejected it at the pre-market high, post-market. When was that put in? That was put in Monday night, and yesterday at 3 PM we couldn't quite break it. So we haven't put in a new high, and then we saw this big sell-off. I think I had earnings last night as well, Google. But we are looking likely we're putting in a downward trend. We won't be in an hourly trend until we break this area, and we need a break below it, come back in to confirm, and then watch it move down. But we are in a bit of a micro downtrend as well, if we were to look at the 5 minute or the 30 minute. So rejections for today, I quite like, considering we're in a down move, we're not in a downtrend. I'm going to play this area, probably where we are right now actually, where we drew in this trend line. I'm going to be watching 49.35 area 4A for two possible plays, either the break and retest long, or a sell-off or rejection for that area. That's the areas I'm watching today. That area there, significant area as well. We've got the previous all-time highs as well, 2 pivots there. And we broke down, couldn't quite break over it, so potentially watching for another rejection or a break and retest long. For the first time in a day or so, we're now below the 50 moving average, we're below the 20 moving average. We've got the 200 in sight if we can break down. Next rejection will be up at 49.56, all-time highs area. So if we see a rejection off of here, I'll also be watching for continuation of the trend up. If we push up, a break and retest. So two positions to watch for there. Both I'll be waiting for confirmation. And with confirmation for the rejection, I'll be using all-time highs, a few, maybe 3 or 4 ticks above all-time highs as my stop, and I want to see a rejection candle, a bit like that, on higher volume as well. So we've got average volume, high volume to show that we've got a lot of buyers and sellers fighting that position. That's it really. Just to recap quickly, we've got a bounce area of 4,900, high risk bounce, which we've already seen in the pre-market at 49.21, but we can also use that area for the break and retest of this ascending triangle. Rejection at 49.34, 49.35, again, two plays, break and retest or rejection, and we've got all-time highs, this area here, 49.56 to 49.57 for a rejection or a break and retest long. That's it really. Looking at SPY, it's going to be very similar. So I'll briefly go through this. So let's just previous all-time high bounce. If we get down there at 44.80, but I do prefer this area here for a bounce, which is 4.85 for a bounce, and potentially a bounce also at pre-market lows, and that's just to continue this trend. We want to try to play the trend rather than go against it as much. So kind of this area here, we can see the extra volume in that area as well, and so kind of watching for a bounce up here. And then we've got a possible target all-time highs at 491.62, 492, and the same as ES, we want to watch for a break and retest long, or we'll watch for the rejection. That's it really for SPY, Qs. The only place I can see really is a rejection at 423. Coming off of these bottoms, tops of candles, a bit of a gap fill there. Tops of candles, bottoms of candles, and then definitely we had nothing out there recently. So if you can see, we're putting in a bit of an inverse head and shoulders pattern potentially. So that's the area there to watch for, either rejection. If you go long, it's tough to find a long because we're going to be going into all of this volume, so I don't really fancy a long, but not saying it's not on. I'll only be watching for rejection at that point. And then we can watch this area here, 428, for the rejection as well. That's it really, not great levels bounce wise. It's got to be if it gets back down to this area here. 410 to 412 for a bounce, but that's a long way off. Potentially even here I don't like. No, that's the only levels really what we just discussed. Rejection up there, double top rejection, or a rejection off of the lows from, was it Friday and Monday. NQ is probably going to be similar to Qs. That looks a little bit more weaker. So we've had that rejection come through, pushed up in the pre-market. So I quite like if we get back up to there for another rejection down to 17,400 for a rejection, and maybe a bounce at the pre-market lows at 17,335. As for bounces, I'll readjust this. I'll stick to that area again. So 17,000 to 17,050 for a bounce on the NQ, and then rejection off of this. Same as Qs. We've got two areas we can watch all-time highs, and those pivots there. So 1770 through to 17,732, and then all-time highs at 17,795. That's it for them. Again, I'll be watching volume and confirmation and level 2 when I take my rejections. Oil, you see this inverse head and shoulders formed. A clear neckline. This is the neckline area here. Coming to that level we talked about, 77.98, again proven to be a significant area again. And this area of demand kind of got to the top of there, rejected it. The shoulder, the right shoulder, if we're going to say this is the right shoulder, rejected $77 or $78 again as well. What we're looking for is a bit of a pullback. I quite like the long if we get down to 75.50, that area. So if we can pull all the way back down to the 200 moving average as well, consider that 75.50 to 76 for a bounce. We've got a previous pivot as well. In fact, previous this neckline, this area here is a bounce area at 76. And if you want to play the head and shoulders pattern, then we can look for a break below, a pull back into the neckline, and then confirmation down. That's it really for oil. Gold futures looking strong. So we got a rejection can be the highs of yesterday, but I don't like there's not that many. I suppose you could draw a small level in there. You've got tops of candles, tops of yesterday, bottoms of candles as well, and a bit of consolidation area. So you could watch that area. We've got the point of control just above as well, at 2070. So we could see that as a rejection area. Double top, high volume, high concentrated volume with this orange line going across. Or if we break out, come back, retest, we got a bit of movement before. We got a bit of movement to 2080 for a long play, and then maybe look for a break and retest of this area to continue the trend. And we've got this area here as the next target, which is 21,000, 2,100, 2,105. So there's possible plays on gold. One to keep an eye on. Bounce wise, we've got this defined area here. This is the area for a bounce at 2039, so wait for the pullback. M2K, which is the Russell 2000. This is the micro E minis. Back at that area again. 2002. Seems to be holding. Held it yesterday, and it might be defending it again today. So potentially double bottom here. We can wait for the breakout above that hourly candle. That's confirmation. Or find a better entry on a lower time frame. Still quite like, we're quite a major area as well, but if we pull right back to the 200 moving average, we can watch 1987 for a potential bounce around that area there. And it's been tops of candles, tops of candles, tops of candles, and tops of that candle with a poke through, and then it's kind of what was the ceiling now becomes the floor. We kind of hovered around it here as well. So watch for potential bounce at this point of control area. But this entire area is quite a bit of volume. So that's the bounce area we're watching for. And what I'm looking at is not just the point of control volume, but the bars above and below it all equal volume. So that's the area to watch for. 1990 for potential bounce. Next is the Dow Jones futures, currently at all-time highs again in the pre-market. Really want to wait for a pullback. Let's look at the 4 hour. And that's the area I'll be waiting for the pullback. 38,000. And the reason for that is got to look at tops of candles there, tops of these candles, tops of these candles, and then the bottoms of candles there. So it's an area of confluence. We have got the point of control a little bit below as well. So where if we get down to 200, so this entire zone we can watch for a bounce. There's no play unless we go for the break and retest of pre-market high to continue the trend. But I think I quite like the pullback. And if I could see one more level, will be there. And the reason I like that level is we've got tops of candles and then bottoms of these candles, and then obviously we've got the 50 moving average as well. So I quite like a pullback down to 38,212 for potential continuation and a bounce off of this area. You can see it's relatively higher than average volume for that area as well, but nowhere near as much volume we've got as we get down to that area. Just note one thing as well, we've got declining volume as well, showing a bit of tiredness as the price is increasing, the volume is coming down. But RSI strong, so but keep an eye on volume for that. So it looks like we might be getting near to end. We don't know it's going to be the end, but it could be a bit of a reversal on the cards. Let's have a quick look at Bitcoin. Interesting to see what happens next. We've got this area here. Potentially putting in an inverse head and shoulders. I haven't put in the right shoulder yet. But I'm hoping that today we can have a strong day in Bitcoin and it can hold above that 250 moving average, this red line. Tried to yesterday, kind of couldn't follow through. But again, volume wise, it's declining. So volume's declining as price is increasing, so that's a sign of tiredness, but we'll see what the next few days brings. I don't play Bitcoin. I've got a very small amount of Bitcoin as an investment, not much, but I do like to keep an eye on it, because if it does pull back, I'm kind of looking for a significant pullback, then it might be nice to add a little bit more to it. I added a little bit here, and I really want to get it when it comes down to that point. So there's a few more areas I want to watch for to add. So let's just see whether MES or ES moved in the last few minutes. That's pretty much where it is. So to recap, ES for today, quite like the rejection off of that structure off the top of that trend line, previous all-time highs. And there's two plays, a break and retest long with a possible target of all-time highs, or the rejection where we will just fill this structure before we make a move out or down. So that's 49.35 area for a break and retest long or a rejection, with both for a confirmation. The place I really wanted to go long yesterday has already triggered this area here today in the pre-market. Hopefully someone got that. But what I'm concentrating on now is a break and retest of that ascending wedge. Target will be the 200 moving average, or the psychological number 4900. May consider a bounce there, but I'll wait for confirmation, and I'll be watching the 5-minute chart for that. And that's it. And the next bounce area would be if we get back down to 48.73. And 4900 is a major bounce area. Psychologically, that's my higher probability bounce, what I'm watching for, if we get back down to there. And again, that's because we've got area confluence, tops of candles, bottoms of candles, and we haven't yet got down there to retest. We've got the 200 moving average coming in. It's an ascending 200 moving average as well, so it has a bit more weight than a sideways one. So watching 4900 for a bounce, that's my place I'm watching today for a bounce, and I'm watching all-time highs for rejection. But again, if we're in an uptrend and we're grinding up slowly, then I'll be looking for a break and retest long. But if we see a big move up like this candle, big green bar going up, then I'll be looking for a rejection. That's it.